And I would hope to be able to call both questions 7 and 8, but I would need to have succinct questions and answers. Question number 7, Alex Riley.
How many houses it estimates needs to be built to tackle the current housing waiting lists in Scotland?
Cabinet Secretary.
Committed to delivering 110,000 affordable homes by 2032, of which at least 70% will be available for social rent and 10% will be in remote, rural and island communities, and will invest £3.6 billion in this parliamentary term towards the delivery of more affordable homes across Scotland, with 30 million of that investment supporting the continuation of the Rural and Islands Housing Fund.
Alex Riley.
Children trapped in temporary accommodation in Scotland is at its highest levels on record, up 17% in 1 year. Families in central belt of Scotland are being offered housing in the north of England because of a lack of housing in Scotland, and according to Shelter, 130,000 households are on waiting lists for social homes. Shelter have written to the First Minister and are calling for an emergency action plan that will buy and build 38,500 social homes by 2026. Will the Government make housing a national priority, and will the Government bring forward a costed national emergency plan so that we can address this unacceptable blight on our country? It makes economic sense and it is the right thing to do.
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, affordable homes and affordable housing is a national priority, which is why £3.6 billion will be allocated during this parliamentary term. That is a very, very clear commitment on our part to build more affordable homes. Now, Alex Rowley talks about a very important issue of temporary accommodation, and he mentions Shelter. And of course, I've asked Shelter, who have accepted to lead an expert group and head up an expert group, to look at what further solutions we can bring to tackle temporary accommodation, because he's absolutely right. There are too many families, particularly families with children, in temporary accommodation, and therefore it is one of my key priorities to target, and Shelter will help us in doing that work. I should point out that there are 20 local authorities out of the 32 that have managed to reduce the number of people in temporary accommodation since last year, but there is more work to be done in reducing the numbers in temporary accommodation, and that's exactly what we are determined to do.
Thank you. And I will now have to move directly to question number 8 because we are really running out of time, and I would ask for brief questions and answers. Question number 8, Ruth McGuire.
To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to the increase in the number of children in temporary accommodation as reported in the annual Homelessness in Scotland statistics.
Cabinet Secretary.
So, as I've just said, I'm very concerned by this increase. I am aware that the impacts of the pandemic are still being felt by local authorities, and they're also facing challenges meeting some households' needs, and that's reflected very much in the backlog of households waiting for settled homes, but the figures are unacceptable. And as I said in the previous answer, I've discussed solutions to temporary accommodation pressures with housing conveners, and I've also asked an expert group chaired by Shelter Scotland and the Association of Local Authority Chief Housing Officers for an action plan, and I am expecting the initial recommendations to be delivered by the end of the year.
Ruth McGuire.
Thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. Empty properties left in disrepair are a blight on neighbourhoods and could be providing much needed homes to family and children on waiting lists. Can the Cabinet Secretary provide an update on the progress of compulsory sale orders, and will the Scottish Government consider the proposal for compulsory rental orders?
Cabinet Secretary.
So Ruth McGuire makes an important point, and we are committed to modernising the compulsory purchase order process to make it clearer, fairer and faster for all parties, and to support the delivery of projects that are in the public interest. Compulsory sales orders are being considered as part of this. Any new powers, of course, would need to be compliant with the European Convention on Human Rights, and compatibility with existing powers need to be carefully considered, and this includes any proposals for compulsory rental orders, but happy to keep the member updated of progress.
Thank you.